Is Netflix's Texas Chainsaw Massacre scary? Well, to put it shortly, no. But don't get me wrong, the film does have bright spots, but like its predecessors, I'm looking at you, next generation, it unfortunately falls short of the original film when it comes to creating fear. So let's talk about how scary Netflix's Texas Chainsaw Massacre is. The story takes place in present-day Texas, 49 years after the horrific events that occurred in the first film. We're set in a small little community called Harlow with a population of, I can't see that number. Anyways, pretty small. We're introduced to sisters Lila and Melody, as well as couple Dante and Ruth. Melody and Dante, who own a food business, want to take their influence to Harlow and bring new life to this mostly lifeless community. Emphasis on mostly. The group stumbles upon a Confederate flag hanging on top of an abandoned orphanage. To avoid scaring away potential investors, Dante insists that he and Melody take it down immediately. However, it turns out this building is not completely abandoned, and just so happens to be where the founder of the orphanage and Leatherface live. You couldn't have picked a worse location, Dante. Now, I can't grade how scary this film is without acknowledging all the things the first film gets right. An issue I see in so many slashers is a lack of interesting characters. They usually just feel thrown in just to get killed off mercilessly. And that's just not horror to me. I want to get attached to the characters and almost feel like I'm a part of the group, because this then raises the tension when all hell breaks loose. Definitely something I think Tobe Hooper, the director of the 1974 film, does so well. Characters like Sally and her brother Franklin really stuck out to me by the film's end. The 2022 film doesn't necessarily do that for me, despite its clear efforts to. But honestly, none of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies did that for me. They mostly just felt like horrible cash grabs. Especially this one.
Oh God!
That is literally what I said while watching this movie. In the 2022 film's defense, this is some of the best gore that I've seen in any of the Texas Chainsaws. Maybe even the best gore. You'll have a couple moments when you're laughing saying, how the hell did they even think of this? If you're someone that's interested in that, this is definitely the movie for you. Despite the excellent gore, the film doesn't have any of those heebie-jeebie moments that the first one can give you. And this is another thing that Tobe Hooper hits on the head. A scene in the 1974 film that is such a memorable one is when the group of friends pick up a hitchhiker and then endure the most creepiest and uncanny experience ever. That lasted a total of 7 minutes, which in my experience watching felt like an eternity. It's moments like these that really separate this film from other slashers, and it's something I wish the Netflix film took a stab at, but it decided to go for the more over-the-top slasher approach, which, depending on your audience, may or may not work. And one more thing that I believe Tobe Hooper executes flawlessly, which I did not expect considering the film came out in 1974, is his effective use of jump scares. There are several in this film that had me startled, and is surprisingly more effective than half of the jump scares I see in modern horror, except Asian horror. Their jump scares are a different breed. Netflix's Texas Chainsaw Massacre reminds me of the newest Scream film that came out. Not necessarily a creepy horror or an immersive story, but fun moments here and there. But my goal when watching every horror movie is by the film's end to be reluctant to sleep with the lights off. And once again, this just doesn't cut it. A lot of cheap jump scares that didn't really even work, and no weird and unsettling moments like the first film. It's more of just showing how much of a god Leatherface is. Overall, Netflix's Texas Chainsaw only gets half of the scary right. Pulling certain aspects from the first film and merging it with its amazing gore would have taken this film to the next level when it comes to real horror. Maybe another creative can make that a reality when the inevitable next Texas Chainsaw comes out. But for now, I've definitely seen enough of Leatherface. This film gets itself a 5 out of 10 on my scare scale. However, this is in no way a bad movie. Considering it's on Netflix and almost all of us have an account to it, I'd say it's worth the watch if you're in the mood for mindless fun, but far from being considered a scary film. If you haven't watched the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I highly recommend you do, especially considering that both of these films take place in the same universe. But if you want something that's way more creepy and skin crawling, definitely watch the 1974 film. I don't think you'll regret it.